Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show. It's that part of the week when I do a series together with my dear friend Rabbi Shlomo Gomorrah, and that series is called Parsha Prose. How are you, Rabbi?
I'm very well. How are you, Avrum?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. This week we will be discussing Parshiot Behar and Behukotai, and we will be doing it through the lens of a classic book called 1984, which you are very excited about, right?
I'm very excited. I think it's one of the most important books that I know that here in chat we teach the students the book. I believe that it's one of the most popular books in high schools. And I find that especially in this age, you have to read it again and again because the relevance of the book is just amazing, especially in the days where every move, everything you do is followed by the big brother, and it's not for malicious things, as Orwell described, but like the life under control, the fact that even when you walk on the street, like cameras take your face and they can analyze it and take the data and to know exactly where you are. I have no secrets to hide, but still I feel that like everyone can watch and everyone can see, and where is my privacy? Where is my individuality?
So we're going to touch on those aspects of the book as well as the Parsha. But before we do that, we like to do what is called Shivim Panim, which is 70 different approaches to truth, but in our case, talking about things between us and Israel and the Jewish people. So I have a couple of questions, one of which is before the podcast itself, you asked me how my week was. And I said, it was good. It was good. And, I have a 19-year-old son, thank God, Noah, and he's growing beautifully. He's doing well in university. But you always have certain concerns, and not to worry, he's fine. But your response was very interesting. You told me about a movie that you saw, and I'd love to hear a little bit more of it on the air here. And the results was of it. Your take away from this movie was how well do you really know your children? I thought that was a great point. So what was the movie, Rabbi?
I have no idea what was the name, but my wife find this movie. The only thing I know is that Robert De Niro
In it, yeah.
is a star of the movie, and it's a very sad movie. I'm sure that many people saw it. My wife told me that it's like from 2010 or something like this. Um, but I'm illiterate in this medium, so if not my wife, I wouldn't see that. But it's a movie that certainly will cause every parent to think about this point. What do we know about our children? What are the secrets going into the family, inside the family? Which is always like a huge issue because we all have like our private life, and the question is how much you want other people to know about your struggles. I'll give you one example. For many years ago, uh, my son was born in Canada. Was born in the 6 months of pregnancy. Um, and when he was born 680 grams in Mount Sinai. And the doctor said, just forget about it. The whole literature and all kind of complications. The prognosis was very, very poor. And Baruch Hashem, today he finished like University of Toronto. He had a very good job. I think he makes more money than his father, which is perfectly fine.
which is what you want. Yeah.
Exactly. Chachamim say, our sages say that a person never jealous in his children and his students. And I can tell you, they were absolutely right. When your children are successful, when your students are successful, you just have nachat. You really do. And the first time my mother heard about the struggle that me and Oprah, my wife, went through, which was, listen, it was a struggle of actually years, because we never knew what will happen next. Um, my mother heard about it only when she came to the bar mitzvah of my son. We kept it as a secret, and she told me, how is it possible? Like, I'm your mom. How couldn't you share it with me? And I told her, listen, you're in Israel, I'm here in Canada. I struggle with everything. You will not help me. You will just be devastated and concerned. Why should I share it with you?
Mhm.
But the more I grow up, I think, what if my children would hide from me things that happen in their life? Wouldn't I be disappointed? But when you see the movie, it caught me like the opposite. Like, well, sometimes people are entitled to keep secrets to themselves and not to share it. But they should know there are consequences. The consequences in this movie is that the father explores and realizes that his children going through struggles and challenges in their own life, and what he thought everything is just fantastic is not exactly so. Um, and to start think about yourself as a parent. So it's a very heavy, thought-provoking movie. But
Is,
I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name. I'm
no,
sure
it's
many of
okay.
our listeners will recognize it.
I'm sure they will. He's a pretty important actor. So is it bothersome to you if in fact you don't know these important issues within your children's lives, or is that understood?
Fully understood. Listen, at a certain point of your life, you have to realize that your children entitled to their own life, their decisions, and to respect their decisions, even if you don't like it.
Rabbi, you touched on a very interesting point moments ago, in which you said that father has nachas from their children when that child is doing better than them, however one construes that, and from your students. It's a beautiful thought, and I think it's mostly true, not entirely. A number of years ago, I was interviewing Jose Feliciano. Do you remember him?
The tenor.
No, he's seeing is visually impaired. He's a blind singer, a folk rock singer.
Yeah.
You remember the song "Come On, Baby, Light My Fire"? Light my fire, light my fire. No, okay. Anyways, I know there's a different genre than you're used to, but
So he's a blind person.
he's blind and he's extraordinarily well known around the world. Was more so in the '70s and '80s and '90s. Anyways, I
The,
interviewed
the
him.
name sounds familiar, but I know like the blind singer Botticelli and Neil
Stevie
Sedaka, but
Wonder.
yeah, Stevie Wonder, not Neil Sedaka, Stevie Wonder.
No,
It's
Neil
not my
Sedaka's
area.
not blind.
Sorry,
It's all right, not to worry. Anyway, so Jose Feliciano told me, and my partner Marty, God bless his soul, he said that when he was growing up and he started to play in bars and clubs, and that his star started to shine, that his father, who worked in fields picking cotton, I believe, became very jealous of him, and their relationship was very difficult because of it. And we talked about that during the show, because I had never heard of jealousy of a parent toward their children. But he said it was most difficult because he himself, his father, had not felt as though he had done a good job with his life. And he saw his son, really, really starting to shine. And that interested me greatly. And I've thought about that for many years.
wow, I never heard anything like this, and I find it to be very strange, very different from a mine, my friend's experience, we all shaping great nachat when our children are doing even better than us.
And your students.
And my students, for sure. And
Yeah.
many of my students really like are today, some of them are well known all over the world in different areas. And I just happened to hear like a podcast about education in Hebrew. And the name sounds very familiar. Dr. Tzachi Levran. And I look a little bit better, and he was the student in my first year of teaching.
No,
His name then was Lieberman, and he became like the head of the school for principals and teachers in Israel. And you know what? I was sitting and just beaming. I did not listen to a word, just to see one of my students like got to this position and share his love for education with the Jewish people. Oh my gosh, this was such a uplifting feeling.
So, Rabbi, what does it say about you?
I don't know. I just think it's exactly what a teacher and a father should be. Very, very happy when he played a certain role in the life of his students and his children. I think it's amazing.
I think you're being humble here because look, you're committed to making the lives of many, many people better through education, through ideas, through the development of thought. And then somebody takes it that far. That's a reflection on you.
I'll tell you what I think about it, because then everyone who is not doing well, you also will relate it to me, and rightfully so. Um, we have a piece in the Talmud, and you raise this issue in a different context, that a person who killed accidentally has to go to a shelter city, and Ir Miklat, and he has to wait until the Kohen Gadol is going to die. And many are bothered, like, what did that have to do with Magna Papam, with the Kohen Gadol? What's the connection?
Yeah.
And the answer of Chazal is so profound.
Yeah.
He is the Kohen Gadol, is like the top of the educational system of the Jewish people. People has to be inspired by him. If there is one person who did not take seriously the value of life of someone else, and he killed him, even accidentally, he texted through driving, he did not pay attention to the road, and he killed someone, we relate it to a lack of the educational system run by the Kohen Gadol, which to me is an amazing thought. But here is the point, which I think is also very, very important. Your greatest success as a parent, I think, and also as a teacher, is that after you providing the foundation, you have to know that they will build their own towers, buildings, personality, and that's your greatest success. When there is kind of separation, so to speak. Of course, good connection is always very, very important, but you have to accept the fact that they are individuals by their own merit. And therefore, for example, in this case, what I feel is I'm so happy that I was one of the people who gave him the foundation, but I take zero credit for the hard work, for the time, for the devotion that he did to reach this level. So, Nachat, yes. Credit, no. This is my approach.
Okay, I'll have to think about that because I was running a nonprofit organization for many years, and it's called V'Ahavta, and it's more vibrant than ever. Thank God, I've retired since. But I have many people who went on to become great humanitarians and work around the world in developing nations, and here in Canada as well. And when I hear about their successes, and there are many, and thank God I have the honor really of hearing about their stories so often, I have a lot of nachas, and I in the back of my mind I take a little bit of credit for it. And you know why? I take credit for it because I like my son, I launched them on that road and I gave them the skills and I taught them and they took it with them and they went out into the world and they implemented them. So I do take a little credit.
Um, I guess we differ in our feeling about it,
Yeah.
and I don't blame you. Actually, I don't know if we have the time right now, but I think the following story is a very, very important one. You know, this is the famous story about Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish.
Mhm.
Let's tell our audience who never heard this story, which is an amazing story. Reish Lakish was a person in Tiberia who was the head of gangsters.
He
Listen,
was a
this was
thug.
he was, you know, at the time of great stress in Israel, and you know, when times are bad, you have gangsters all over because they have to make money and they cannot do it in the normal way when you have to give more than 90% of your crops to the Romans. So in situations like this, and I'm sure that it's until this very day, in very bad economy, you will have more cases of violence and more cases of robbing and stealing and so on. And one day, Rabbi Yochanan, the greatest scholar of the Talmud, see him taking, he's swimming in the Jordan, I guess. This was the bathtub of the entire population of Tveria. You know, they did not have like showers at home. They went to the Jordan. And he see Reish Lakish, and he said, "Oh, your powers, your might should be funneled to a very different direction. You should sit and learn Torah because I can see the personality you have. You are going to be a great rabbi." He apparently had this sense, and indeed he was right. He became like a great rabbi. Just to make the long story short, because we can spend two podcasts on this story, he married the sister of Rabbi Yochanan. According to the Talmud, Rabbi Yochanan was a beautiful person. His sister was a gorgeous girl, and Reish Lakish married her, and he becomes um, one of the greatest scholar of the Talmud as well. However, one day there was a question, a theoretical question, when a dagger becomes tame, unpure. Without running into the details of this sugya, Reish Lakish had one opinion and Rabbi Yochanan disagreed with him. And then Rabbi Yochanan jokingly said, "You know what, I think maybe you're right because you really understand in daggers much better than I am." Reish Lakish could not take it. Rish Lakish was offended unbelievably after so many years that he changed completely from being a gangster to being one of the greatest scholars of Torah. Rabbi Yochanan in his mind still remember like me as a gangster, and there was a deterioration, terrible deterioration in the relationship between them, to the point that Reish Lakish like went out of his mind, became completely like detached from reality. A
Yeah.
tragedy, unbelievable tragedy. And Rabbi Yochanan, to his protection, said, "What do you mean? I am the person. I am the person who made you a Talmid Chacham, and now you question me. Now you like turn angry against me. I'm the person who gave you the Olam Haba. I'm the person who built you up." And I think a lot about this story, especially as an educator. And actually, I think your approach and my approach are somehow in this machloket, in this disagreement. Rabbi Yochanan see himself like you. Like, I built this person. I gave so much of myself. I educated people. I built them up. I think my approach is more like Reish Lakish. Thank you very much. I really appreciate and admire everything I did in these cases or someone else did for me. But at a certain point, I have to respect their authority, their autonomy. Um, so you see, maybe our disagreement is already rooted in a much more ancient disagreement between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, which is a great compliment, I think, to you and maybe even to me.
Very good. I like that very much. But through, we've almost done a year of podcasts together. So we've gotten to know each other very well. And there are times where we'll have a tete a tete. And you will say, maybe not specifically, but something like, talk about your teachers, your Rebbeim, Rosh Yeshiva, like very, very prominent people in your life. And the inference when you speak about them is that they were part of making me who I am today.
Absolutely, but let me tell you, I do believe that some of the people that I admired are maybe rolling their grave when they see me like having the podcast with you, Avrum.
Fair enough.
I'm deadly serious. Like they
Why?
would
Why
see.
is that? Why?
Why? Because they will see, like, a Torah scholar going on podcast with saying sometimes things that don't align with things that they taught me. It was very much against them. They always run away from publicity, especially in the scale of YouTube or Spotify and things like this. And you know what? It doesn't take one iota from my admiration to them,
Yes.
although I have my own way. And it would be nice if they would respect it, but even if not, at a certain point, I have to go to my own way.
Yes. Yes. But by the way, in light of this whole discussion, I'm thinking of Elisha Benavuya and Rav Meir. Rav Meir being his student. Elisha Benavuya, as they would say, went off the derech. He gave it all up, and he was one of the great sages of the Talmud. But Rav Meir still was very loyal to him and respected him greatly. You know.
Yeah. I think it doesn't stand in contradiction. And Rabbi Yochanan thought that it is contradiction. Um, yeah. At a certain point, we have to leave the nest, but in a way that we know to appreciate our past and
Right.
more so.
Right.
As we growing up, we might disagree upon certain things with our parents, but we learn to appreciate more and more what they did for us.
Rabbi, before we get into Parsha and Prose, I just like to finish off our Shivim Panim. I often think of the great scholars who basically make up what we do here and what people learn around the world. And some of them are so prolific and so brilliant and brought so much to Judaism. You can honestly say that there were certain chachamim throughout history who even saved Judaism through their approach to Torah. Now,
Absolutely.
I often think about the Ibn Ezra, and I just want to comment on him for a moment because you do actually quote him from time to time. His name was Avraham Ibn Ezra. He lived from 1089 to 1164, and he was a medieval Jewish scholar. He was a poet. He was a polymath from Spain, which means he was a Renaissance man, more or less. A key figure in the Jewish Golden Age, he excelled in biblical exegesis, Hebrew grammar, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and poetry. His most notable works include incisive biblical commentaries, particularly on the Torah, on Psalms, and Job, blending literal interpretations with philosophical and astrological insights. He also wrote treatises on Hebrew grammar, such as the Sefer Mosnaim, and works on mathematics and astronomy, like Sefer HaMisbar. I'm enamored by the Ibn Ezra, and he's quoted so often. He seems to be that handful of Chachamim throughout history who sort of is set apart from the others. Would you agree with that?
He was different, and he challenged a lot the establishment. He was very poor, and had to move from one place to another. Sometimes fighting with his sponsors. Um, he was different. He was different in many ways because his expertise in many areas, especially the Hebrew language, you find sometimes unbelievable comments. He was very, very sharp, even on the Perush to the Torah, when he sometimes fight with other commentaries, is very sharp and have very unique style. I'm not sure how easy was to live with him.
Mhm.
And you know what? We just spoke about parents and sons. You know that the Ibn Ezra spent some of his life in London. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. No.
So he was, and I think he was invited by one of the greatest people there. And the tragedy is that his son became a Muslim.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very few people know it, and this tragedy was daunting on him. So again, apparently it's an old issue. Relationship, parents of children, not so simple.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, let's dive into Parsha and Prose. We are talking about Parsha Bahar as well as Bechukotai, and we're also we're doing that through the lens of 1984 by George Orwell. So I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to both the Parsha and the novel itself. The Torah portion Bahar, which you find in Leviticus 25:1 to 26:2, and Bechukotai, Leviticus 26:3 and 27:34, it forms a powerful conclusion to the book of Leviticus, addressing themes of freedom, slavery, and property ownership within the framework of God's covenant with Israel. Revealed at Mount Sinai, these portions outline laws and principles that shape a just society rooted in divine authority. Bahar introduces the Sabbatical Year and the Jubilee, which I find fascinating. Laws that mandate rest for the land every seventh year and a grand restoration every 50th year. The Jubilee is particularly striking as it mandates the release of Israelite slaves, the return of ancestral land to its original owners, and the forgiveness of debts. These laws prevent perpetual slavery and entrench wealth disparity, reminding Israel that the land belongs to God with humans as its stewards. Bechukotai complements these ideas by presenting the blessing for obeying God's commandments, prosperity, peace, and freedom, and the curse for disobedience, including exile and loss of autonomy. This reinforces the notion that true freedom flows from the alignment of God's will, while rebellion leads to forms of enslavement, whether to foreign powers or to sin. George Orwell in 1984. George Orwell's 1984 was published in 1949, and it stands as a seminal work of dystopian literature, offering a grim vision of a world dominated by totalitarianism. It was set in the superstate of Oceania. The novel depicts a society under the iron grip of the party, led by the omnipresent figure of Big Brother. The party controls every facet of existence, thought, behavior, history, and even truth itself through relentless surveillance, propaganda, and the manipulation of language via newspeak. The story centers on Winston Smith, a lowly party functionary who works at the Ministry of Truth, altering records to align with the party's ever changing narrative. As Winston grapples with his growing disillusionment, he embarks on a forbidden quest for personal freedom and truth, defying the party's suffocating control. Rabbi, interesting choice of novels, bringing it together with Bahar Bechukotai. What was your thought on that?
I was always very, very impressed with the laws of the Torah about returning a lost property to the owner, lost property in terms of like the need to sell your land, the land of your father, the land of your grandfather, to sell it outside the family, and how it influences the family. We did at the time we spoke about a grape of wrath, which the idea of land is so highlighted, and the importance of the land, not only as property, so to speak, but continuity of the family. And I find these laws to really be divine, because by human being, you sold me something, it's mine, it's over, forget about it. And here the Torah built the whole system that no, we press the reset button, and the land that you sold under certain circumstances is not going to snap the continuity of your family.
Yep.
It's going to return to you. And when you think about this as an idea of freedom, it's based on hope that one day I will go back to my land. It talks about a real freedom of making choices and being able to atone my bad choices. And when you think about the slavery, the modern slavery described in 84, I think you have a very good perspective to compare the idea of freedom as the Torah described it. And that's why I say, like, the divine thought about the freedom of human being, I think is well expressed in this parsha, compared to people who want to keep the power to themselves. And what is the book of 1984 if not about like holding power and changing everything around it in order to maintain this power?
Rabbi, I know that you often ensconce yourself in the study of characters, of novelists, of people who write these books. So I just want to touch on who George Orwell was for a moment, because I'm always fascinated by your knowledge and response to these things. George Orwell, the pen name of Eric Arthur Blair, 1903 to 1950, died at 47, was an influential English writer whose work critiqued totalitarianism, imperialism, and social inequality. Born in India and educated in England, Orwell's early career as a colonial police officer in Burma fueled his anti imperialist stance, evident in essays like Shooting an Elephant. His commitment to democratic socialism shaped his most famous novel, Animal Farm, in 1945, a satirical allegory of Soviet tyranny in 1984, which was published, as we said, in 1949, a chilling dystopian vision of surveillance state. Orwell's experience fighting in the Spanish Civil War, detailed in Homage to Catalonia, deepened his hatred of authoritarianism. A fascinating human being. It's interesting what makes up a novelist, you know?
Like Ernest Hemingway, we also spoke about The Old Man and the Sea. His life experience certainly shaped his writing. There is no question. And many writers have the ability to explore and to create worlds by themselves. I think this is a great gift of literature, that in your mind you can build cities, you can build families, you can build many things. But the most amazing thing is some people actually saw it very by themselves, and they found a way to express their thoughts not in a blog but in a great book, like this. And yes, obviously, the Animal Farm. Did we discuss this one? I thought
I don't think so.
we
Did we?
we
I don't
should we
remember.
should on one day. Um, and 1984 was actually a prophecy that maybe he thought about totalitarian regimes, but totalitarian can be expressed in many ways. Sometimes you don't know you are in a totalitarian regime, and in few ways or similarities. Today, Baruch Hashem, we are working free on the street, as they say, and we are making our decisions. But think about the media influence on us, social media influence on us, and you start to doubt, like, how much freedom you really have to think what you want to think. The cancel culture as a phenomenon that you cannot think in a certain way. The demand sometimes not to hear different ideas. It's quite threatening, and it is a way of slavery, in my opinion. I'm open to any, even radical ideas. I think it's important to listen, not to get too offended, and to think about the truth in each one of them, because otherwise the world will not make any progress. That's my opinion.
Rabbi, where you sit today in 2025 as an educator, um, is it clear to you that your X amount of years on this earth and what you've gone through, being raised in Israel, going through the IDF, that all of that comes to fruition in some ways, has plays a role in what you're doing on this very day
Oh, absolutely.
itself.
Absolutely. I think a lot about things of the past, and things of the past, I don't have to think too much. They just pop up in front of me because the similarities are just sometimes striking. Like, I was in this situation a few times already, and I think I know what to do about it. And sometimes you realize that when you're 65, for example, you think differently than what you thought in the age of 45. And you are the same person, but different experience. You learn something about life through your life, which sometimes caused me. I think about the situation that, when I was 35, I would like react in a very, like with a hammer of 10 kilograms. And today I say,
Me too.
okay, you know what? Let's try to attack it from a very different angle, a much more softer and much more inclusive, much more embracing. And this is one of the beauties that experience and age brings. There are not too many, but this is certainly very, very important to see how you develop your thinking and your personality and your understanding of the world around you. It would be nice if God would give us this wisdom when we are 20, but apparently the Almighty knows what He's doing, and you have to go through this process to appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a saying, youth is wasted on the young, and I don't think that's true at all.
No, it's not.
No. But by the way, when I started my community work at the United Jewish Appeal in 1990, I came in there with a sledgehammer of my own, and I would smash that sledgehammer, metaphorically on the table. Why aren't we taking Russian Jews who live here home for Shabbat? Why aren't we embracing them? And what I realized was that I was the only one who was fighting. I looked around the table; nobody was fighting back with me, and I thought at that time, sometimes honey is far more effective.
Machiavelli that we discussed in one of
We did discuss, yeah.
in one of his chapters described the general who runs, and he tell all the soldiers to go after him, and they stand there and say bravo, and he runs along in front of everyone else, but alone.
Rabbi Bahar emphasizes that the land belongs to God, with humans as stewards. It's Leviticus 25:23. How does this differ from the party's claim of absolute ownership over all aspects of life in 1984, including truth and history?
Yeah, this is a great question, because actually you can claim that the big brother that we Jews believe in is God Himself. He watch everything, and He right. This is can be also understood as something that you are bound to, and you have to. But I think this parsha just explain what is the difference. The difference is that human beings want everything to themselves, and the divine power want everything to be shared, and actually not to hold power in one place. That's the beauty of the mitzvot of the Torah, that they take the Torah, and God knows very, very well the human nature. And the human nature is to collect, to have more, and even more. And if he has more, I want even more than him. And the Torah said, okay, that's important. If we would not care about our own wealth and our own health and our own success, the world would, stop at a certain point and not progress. But with it comes not only collection of property and land, comes something much more frightening, which is power. You start to think that because you have more money and more land, you can control the life of others. That's exactly what is happening in 1984. And you build a whole system to maintain it, like changing the history, rewriting history, defining what truth is and what is not. And the Torah takes these tendencies and makes it to something very different. You think you have power? No, no, no. After 50 years, your property that you think is holding you in this world is going back to the owner. He and his children, because 50 years is usually 2 generations or so, they have the right to rebuild their life. People don't know. Before Israel was established, many lands of Israel were already belonged to the Zionist movement. Emek Israel, major parts of the Sharon. We did not need the mandate decision or the UN decision to be the owner of the land. We needed the permission to build a country. But the land was Jewish even before. You are going to be amazed how Jews from Russia and Poland could accumulate such huge amounts of lands that basically under the Ottoman Empire would belong to other people. They bought it with money that sometimes was 200, 100 more than the real value of these swamps. The reason was that there were 4 families in the Arab population. There was no Palestine at the time. I mean, no Palestinians at the time. And they owned the land. How they owned such huge amounts of land? Because exactly what the Torah describes here. The poor falachs, the peasants, the villagers, sometimes run into difficult years. They had no money. They had to sell the land. And they sold the land to this family that accumulated more money and more money and more money. And by the way, did not even live in Israel. One was living in Gaza, one was living in Beirut. Most of the land of Israel was held by one family that lived in Beirut, Lebanon, not in Israel. Because who wanted to live in Israel? It was like an area of swamps and desolated mountains and valleys. And it happened because the normal way of accumulation of wealth and property was exactly so. Over the years, they accumulated more money, and they got control over the poor family that lived on their land. And therefore, when they came to negotiate, they did not have to negotiate with this person and this person and this person and this person, which will make it impossible maybe. They dealt with one family, got all Emek Israel. They dealt with another family, got all from Tel Aviv to Rishon LeZion, huge amounts of land. The Torah comes and says this is impossible. Every person who is forefather, 200 generations before, was one of the people who entered the land of Israel, even if the situation was horrible and at one point they were forced to sell the land, they are going to get it back. And I find it really like such an incredible idea about understanding like the importance of continuity and family life and the responsibility of one generation to another. That when I compare it to what happened in the world around us, I think it's such an uplifting idea that you are a free person. Even if you made a decision at a certain point, you will own the land at the end of the day, and your child is going to own the land one day, if not you. It's a very freeing and just beautiful and profound idea.
So, Rabbi, when Joseph actually implemented such a plan, not the Jubilee plan, of taking the land from the people during the famine, was that then an unethical plan?
You know what? I think I said it a few times in my Divrei Torah. Joseph had a very good intention. Sometimes you have to nationalize the land because, especially in terrible times, people will kill each other for a piece of land that they can grow some wheat and some others. And sometimes the country, the government has to get involved. But if you ask me, you read the few first psukim of Shmot. Vayakom melech chadash al Mitzrayim asher lo yada et Yosef. Let's not kid ourselves. How is it possible that a king never heard about Joseph, who saved Egypt from disaster. It's
Yeah.
impossible. I do believe that actually when Yosef did the right thing for the time, he seed the disaster for 100 years later. The Egyptian people, after 100 years, they were not as committed to Yosef. They, the third generation did not see the salvation that Yosef brought. But what they saw is they had no land. Everything belonged to Pharaoh, to their royalty. And maybe rightfully so, they rebelled against the people who took their money and their land and their life in a way. And I can guess that if me and you, Avrum, would go to the main street of Egypt at the time, we will hear, oh, the Jews, they took everything. It was Joseph, the Jew, who took everything. There is a very easy way to turn things around. And that's what it means. ויקום מלך חדש על מצרים אשר לא ידע את יוסף. He's a politician. He hear what his people say, and in a certain way they might be right. Maybe it was a mistake not to return the land to the people. I don't know. Of course, I cannot judge history, especially not from 35 years or 4,000 years before us. But I have no doubt that the same way that Joseph, in a way, enslaved the people of Mitzrayim, the reaction was to enslave the Jewish people 100 years later. In my mind, it's quite clear. The fact that, we have Sefer Bereshit and Sefer Shmot, and we don't read the story at once, maybe make it harder to see the connection. But I think if you take it as a book and you read the story of Vayigash and Vayechi and the spread of the Jewish people and handling the economy of Egypt, it turned around. And by the way, it's not only a story of 4,000 years ago. Think about Germany, where Jewish people were the bankers and helped Germany. They saw themselves as Germans before they saw themselves Jews. But at the end, you come with, in Hebrew it's called Adon Zis. Maybe in English it's Zis, Mr. Zis or something like this, or the Zis, the Jew maybe. And in a very sophisticated propaganda, they change everything upside down. And they make the Jews enemy number one of the German people. So the Torah does not want anybody to gain power by taking land and accumulate land.
Do we know that the Jubilee actually was implemented at any given time? It was?
Not for a long time, because one of the halachic requirements is that Rov Yoshvei Alea, like most of the people, has to sit in Israel. And you know what? Even from very ancient time, it was not always the case. The Jewish people, a lot because of the internal fight, a lesson that we have to learn today, every hour. Many of them were exiled after a few hundred years from the moment they came to Israel. And from this moment on, halachically, you cannot have the Jubilee year. You need most of the Jewish people sitting on the land of Israel. By the way, we might reach this point at this, in 2025, that most of the Jewish people are living in Israel. I don't know the statistics, but it makes sense. So the Jubilee was practiced, I would say, for something around, I would guess, 500 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, by the way, statistically, it's almost, I think there's about a little bit more than half of the Jews now live in Israel, and then the others live in the diaspora.
And by the way, even when they were in Israel, they did not keep it so well. We have to admit it, because our sages see the 70 years of exile to Babel as a response to the lack of keeping the laws of Shemitah and Yovel, these 7 years and Jubilee, properly. So for every cycle, they were punished to be 1 year. So indeed, it's like something around 490 years, 500 years, something like this, that they could keep the Jubilee, but apparently in certain part they did not do it properly, at least. Listen,
No,
it's a very hard mitzvah. It's a very hard mitzvah.
it's a very hard mitzvah, and you think about it, the person who gets the land back, inevitably he will be or she will be very happy, but the person who's giving the land
Sure.
back will not be happy.
Because they might see this land, already for 30, 40 years, right?
Yes.
And he never knew anything otherwise. And think about the fact that he was a child when his father bought the field after the Jubilee. Now he's 50 years old and he's responsible to return it. This is the land that he
Yes.
used to go on the tractor, like your famous picture, and to work the land. And someone comes, and this someone he cannot even see, told him to return the land to its owner. Yeah.
Right.
It's an
Right.
amazing mitzvah.
And what you
that
said
shows
before,
it shows you that only the divine power could give such a mitzvah, because normally, according to the human normal behaviors, it will never materialize.
it's very interesting what you're saying, by the way, about the complications and the difficulties of certain mitzvot, as this one, Yovel. My chavrusa Motel and I are learning the mitzvot aseh from the Chofetz Chaim, and I think there's 76 that are that are applied to today. The final one that he speaks of is the one of Malik, and the idea that you have to kill Malik where he stands. But the truth of the matter is Rambam says we don't know who a Malik is. It's more of a concept, right? So some of these mitzvot are very, very complicated.
They are, and sometimes we have to go and see the inner side of them, because it said Macho edecha Amalek. I'll tell you like a very famous Hasidic story, which is a beautiful story, which might teach you something about the mitzvah of Mechiat Amalek. It said that one day on Purim, where you read the Megillah, which is part of Mechiat Amalek, the Rebbe, a frail person in a shtetl in Europe, told his Hasidim, guys, I want like 50 of you, come with me, we are going to do the mitzvah of Mechiat Amalek.
I never heard this.
And the Hasidim look at each other, and they look at the Rebbe, the general who barely can walk, and he's going to do Mechiat Amalek. Okay, they laugh to each other. They say the rabbi, should we take the axes, like knives from the shchita or something like this? He said, no, don't take anything. But you say that we have to go do a Mechiat Amalek. We have to kill the Amalekim. He said, don't worry, come after me. He goes to the bar, local bar, and obviously you have, many Gentiles are sitting there and drinking their vodka, their beer, their wine. And the rabbi entered the bar. Everyone look at him and start to laugh. What are you doing here? And he said, I came to do Mechiat Amalek. I came to to uproot Amalek. And they have a good laugh. And then the Rebbe said, you do exactly what I'm doing. And he took one of the peasants sitting and drinking vodka and started to dance with him with a Hasidic niggin. And they dance, and like the Gentile love it, and he hugs the rabbi, and they start, and all the Hasidim there, they hug the Gentile, then they have like a beautiful dance together, and the Gentiles love it, and they cry, and we love you Jews, like we know that we sometimes do your chores, but we decided not to do it. We have such a great fun. And by the way, if you ever visited like a wedding where people who are not Jews coming to a Jewish wedding, they have the best time of their life.
Yeah, right. That's true.
Dancing
Yes.
and everything. And then when it happened, the Rebbe went out of the krechma of the bar and told this Hasidim, we did Mechiat Amalek, which is a beautiful idea. Like Mechiat Amalek sometimes does not have to happen, by killing people, but changing their mind.
Huh.
and turning them from the inside, because we are not a religion of spilling blood. That's the reality of it. And even when the goyim now blame us for genocide and for war crimes, and they don't see what happened here. They don't see what happened. What does it mean? Like a country that have when kids are going to the schools, the parents are not sure that they are going to see them again because there are the rockets and terror attacks. Here, people in Canada, in France, in England, they simply don't understand it. But you know what? It teaches me one thing: the way they see us. At least they realize that we Jews have some virtues that are admired by them. So their anti-Semitism to me is a compliment. They think highly about me, and they think that I don't stand the standards that they set. I see it a completely different way. Of course, I see it as a self-defense and saving the life of so many Jews. But I still appreciate the point, the idea that they see us as on a different level of morality and expectations. Yeah, I hope that I made my, because I think a lot in the recent days about this issue. It bothers me to no end, and I try to see the light in it, and there is a light in it.
I will. Great. Very well said, Rabbi. I would just add to that. By the way, I'm currently reading one of the books I'm reading is "The Jew and the Anti-Semite" by Jean-Paul Sartre, and it's worthwhile reading. Not all his theories, I think, are good theories, but there's a lot of which he says about anti-Semitism in bourgeoisie France and the time around that. One of the things that he says, which I found very riveting, is that if the Jew didn't exist, the anti-Semite would create him.
Interesting.
Yeah. Rabbi, I want to quote a few lines, as I like doing from our novel 1984, and I always like to hear your response. Big Brother is watching
Yeah,
you.
it's
Class.
I think the most famous one. I think it's already in the chapter 1 or 2. Uh, the
Yes.
feeling that you cannot escape the big brother watching you. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And as I said, it's
And our
frightening that
Big Brother
today,
is,
basically the big brother watching us. You have to understand it. Like when you walk on the street, someone watching you.
and in Yiddishkeit, our Big Brother, as you said before, is God.
That's right. But here is the difference where if it's a bank or who collect all the time data about you, everything that you buy, everything that you shop, everything that you, every transaction, how much you spend on March compared to April, and what caused this difference. They know too much about us. That's the reality of it. Um, but as I say, this is like maintaining power and manipulating you by advertisement to analyze all the time, like the pattern of our behavior. With God is very different. He watch us in order to help us to be better.
Just a couple more quotes. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. And finally, war is peace, freedom is slavery,
No, let's stop in
ignorance
the
is,
second one because it's
yeah,
so
yeah, go ahead.
important. Because also, if you think about it, that's exactly in the center of Parashat Behar. The center is that no, actually, the past can be changed, but by what? Not by changing the history and rewriting it because you control. You are forced to return the past and to make it right, returning the lost land to its owner. So the Torah idea is using the power again, not to rewrite history and to give you a false impression about your life and about your history and about your memory. It's about actually doing the right thing And this is just like the opposite between the two is so striking to me that this parsha, although it's sometimes hard to understand why the Torah spent so much time on it, this is the essence of freedom. Essence of freedom.
Beautiful idea. And by the way, in Leviticus, just to add to what you were saying, 25:23, it specifically says the land belongs to God. The land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. For you are strangers and sojourners with me. The land belongs to God.
Yeah.
Right, Rabbi? I've been playing around with AI a little bit.
The question now is which one, because now I know a little bit more, and I know that there is Grok, there is AI,
Yeah,
Deep
yeah,
Search, Gemini. And by the way, I have to
yeah.
tell you that in our school we pay lots of attention to professional development around the AI. And we know that the AI is going to be like the major thing, and it will reshape the world of education. But the question is again, like in 1984, how much individuality we are going to keep with the people themselves. Because if today they know everything about us, in 5 years it will be much worse. And
Yes.
the value of the individual is going to be, I think, in question. Maybe it's already in question. Um, so we want to do the right thing. We want to use it as a tool and a friend, but not something that is going to take over our thinking, our critical thinking, and our ability to have empathy towards one another.
I'm really taken by how much you've learned about AI, and I think so far, to me, it's a friend. I don't think it's working against us at this point, but your point is very well taken. So here's a poem, Ode to Bahar and Behukotai through the lens of 1984, and this is compiled, not written by, but compiled by AI. In the land of Sinai's whisper, where fields must rest, Bahar speaks of cycles, Sabbaths blessed. The earth lies fallow, free from toil's decree, yet in Oceana's grip no rest can be. Big Brother's eyes unblinking scan the soul, where liberty like Jubilee is a stolen goal. Every seventh year the land exhales. That's a nice one. Huh? Slaves walk free, debts dissolve, justice prevails. But in the party's world, no freedom springs. Telescreens hum, chaining thoughts to strings. The Torah calls, return the land, set free that chained, while 1984 iron boots keep all restrained. Bechukotai sings of paths, two roads to tread. Obey the law, and blessings crown your head. Rain shall fall, the earth shall yield, peace shall reign. But stray and curse fall like acid rain. The party too demands unwavering trust. Obey or vanish, thought crimes ash and dust. If you follow my statutes, the Lord declares, fields bloom, fears fade, love repairs. But in airstrip one, no covenant holds sway. Truth is rewritten, night devours the day. The Torah's God seeks hearts that freely choose, while Big Brother will no dissent can use. Curses cascade when faith in God grows thin, famine, fear, a world worn down by sin. Yet even in despair, a vow remains repent, return, and break the exile's chain. In 1984, no hope redeems the fall. Room 101 consumes a soul, the all. Bahar's Jubilee, a trumpet's call to grace, frees the bound, restores the human place. Bechukotai's blessing, fragile yet divine, promises life where love and law align. But Orwell's world, a cage of glass and steel, mocks the Torah's dream where freedom real. Yet still the scroll endures, its words abide, a part of truth no party can deride. In fields that rest, in hearts that turn in men, God's covenant outlives the tyrant's end. From Sinai's light to dystopia's dark shore, the Torah calls, choose life forevermore.
So beautiful. I love especially the hope and the ability to unfeather from our chain. I love it. And I just will end with a Dvar Torah. The Parsha of Bechukotai start im Bechukotai telechu. So you are going to get all the blessing if you are going to follow my mitzvot. And my advice for life. You are going to have all the blessing in the world. And I once heard that im is aleph and mem. So if you think about all the low points of the Jewish people, and they did not believe in their own redemption, you have this aleph and mem that came to redeem them. Aaron, Moshe. And then you have like the story of Purim. You have Esther and Mordechai, Aleph and Mem. And it's such a beautiful idea that, of course, it's a word. It's not a Dvar Torah, it's a word. But we sometimes, the beauty of the Jewish people is to be in unbearable condition and still not losing hope. And we are looking for those are dark days, and I'm sure that many people don't know what the future holds for us. But I would say, in Bechukotai telechu, in is also Eliyahu, Anavi, Mashiach. We just have to believe, the future holds great things for us. We cannot be just, oppressed by reality. We always have our way to see a little bit beyond it. So let's hope that this will happen very, very soon.
Sweet. Eretz Medina.
Eretz Medina, I love it. Beautiful.
Rabbi, what's the difference between Dvar Torah and a
Avrum
vort?
is like Aleph. Dvar Torah is something which is really based on the Torah. Let me tell you, I'm pretty sure that the one who say this idea of Aaron, Moshe, Mordechai, Esther, Eliyahu, and Mashiach, it's a beautiful thing, but I'm not sure that the Torah really meant it. You just find a place in the Torah when you can tie your idea into it. Dvar Torah means to take the Torah. The Torah inspires you to think in a certain way. So I want to think about our podcast more as a Dvar Torah rather than words, for example.
Very nice. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for being part of this today. We're always grateful that you listen and that you watch this podcast called Parsha and Prose. And as I mentioned before, we are approaching our first year anniversary, and that for the both of us is extraordinarily exciting because one, we were able to do it. It's not necessarily an easy task, right, Rabbi?
Absolutely. I listen. When I committed myself to it, I could not actually even think that we will pass Bamidbar. We started in the beginning of Bamidbar, and I have to commend you for making it happen. It was a commitment on my side, but a greater commitment on your side of Rome. And thank you very much for the opportunity. It's quite exciting that we managed to do so many books and so many parshiot. And the interesting thing is that we have still hundreds of other books waiting. I'm not sure in the second cycle what we are going to do. We have some time to think about it.
Yeah, and we only missed two Parsha, one of which was Bereshit.
Oh, but you know what? Like, that shows you that even when you think, they say that every page in the Talmud start in daf in blot 2, never once, because they want you not to have like such a great feeling that you completed everything from A to Z, so to speak. So it's only from B to Z. So it's the same here. Maybe like, we should not be too like feeling good. Oh, there is still one Bereshit is still missing.
Right. I can't wait to do Bereshit with you. But when we finish the Talmud, we say Hadron Alach, right? And when you translate those few lines, it's basically when I come back to you, until I return to you.
Just wait. I'm coming. I'm coming back.
Exactly. Folks, please share this. Let other people hear it. I think there's a lot of valuable stuff that we discuss, and it's well worth studying Torah. It just will make you proud to be a Jew. And these are very difficult and challenging times for the Jewish people. And if you sit and you concentrate on the Parsha or on the Gemara or on Musa, or a friend of mine just told me he's going to start studying Pirkei Avot, you're going to see the beauty of our people, and you're going to stand up proud, and anti-Semites can say whatever they want because we know who we are. We know who we are, and you'll find it more so when you sit and you study Torah, you enjoy it, and you share it with others. Any concluding words, Rabbi?
One thing I just want to introduce our viewers to this. It's called the mouth. And this part, one click, even if you don't sponsor this program, you can help us to share it with more people. So you have like the like, please like it, please share it. Just one click like this, nothing.
Nice. Very
So,
good.
and thank you for listening to us. Thank you for the beautiful comment that I got in Toronto. When I go and visit other cities, I hear in other cities, even in LA, someone came to me in shul and said, "Oh, you're a big Gemara. I actually saw your podcast. It was so interesting." Yes, it is interesting to many people. Help Avrum and me to spread the word, and it's very, very easy to do so.
Very good. Folks, have a beautiful week, a beautiful Shabbat coming up. And if you'd like to be in touch with us, you know how to do so. It's at the bottom of the screen. Until next week, God willing, Zygosint, be healthy, be strong, and we look forward to being with you again. Thank you so much.